everyone, welcome to a new journal video. I'm so excited to share this New Year's theme with you. We're setting up the month of January together in this video, and welcome to a whole new theme for 2025. I'm so excited about this theme. So before we get into what it is, I'm just going to point out the technique that I'm doing right now, because some people might not know this. I've been doing this for years, but I will admit you don't have as much control as if you just watercolored it with a brush yourself. But this is just using Tombow Dual Brush markers, a bit of water. You can see I'm bending that plastic film that I've got this on, and I'm then just smearing it into my book. You don't get a lot of control with this, and you can notice that I am a bit more messier with the lines now. I'm not as precise because it didn't end up where I wanted it to go, and I just go in a lot and just put it everywhere. It does mean that it ends up all over the page if you're not careful, but I really like this effect. It's the only time I use it in the journal, but I wanted to start this video off by mentioning it because I'm going to start talking about the theme now, and I'll most likely forget about it if I don't share what this technique is right now. If you want me to do a slower version and talk it through a bit more, happy to do that in another video, but that is just the technique that I put behind the header for today's video. So this is the first theme of January for 2025, and if you're new here, first off, hello, my name is Shal. I do a lot of videos about reading journals and what I'm reading, and I would love to have you here. If you're not subscribed, please watch this video, and if you enjoy it, I'd love to have you join us for the rest of the videos of the year. So this is the first setup for another year-long theme. Last year, if you were here, you would know, but I did a year-long theme where I took you to 12 different fantasy destinations each month, and this is going to continue on from that. Now that we've gone to those destinations, this is our reference novel, or reference notebook, I should say, of what we found on that trip to those 12 different places. I'm going to be referencing different magical items, creatures, artifacts. You get it. Things that you'll find in a fantasy world, they're going to be in this book. Basically, I wanted to be Emily Wilde, which, if you don't know, is my favorite character from my favorite series called Emily Wilde by Heather Fawcett. And she has written several textbooks, one about an encyclopedia of fairies, and then maps of the other lands, which was book 2. And the third book is called A Compendium of Lost Tales, and I named this one A Compendium of Magic. So you can see why I really was inspired by this series. And whilst I don't think Emily would ever do something so ornate or elegant for her reference journals, this is definitely based off of that, and I'm so excited to see it coming together. So I decided to also bring back the colour scheme that I didn't do very often last year. There was one month, it was May, and we went to Thorn Manor, which is from Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, and I did it as a pastel pink and purple theme. I decided to bring it back, but brighter and better than ever, for this first theme to really set the year up. On the top of the cover page, I'm now doing a chapter header. This will be carried throughout the entire year. This is where it's going to go every month. And we're on chapter 1, and I will tell you the theme now. It is Amulets and Wands. I'm so excited to see this all come together. I cannot wait to do other themes for other months, but let's just focus on what we're going to do here first. So this is the reference point that I was talking about. Last year, when I was doing the cover page, it was split in two. On the left-hand side, we would have the destination of where we're going to. It would have a quote underneath, giving like a heads up of where we're going. And then on the right-hand side, it would have the header of the month and then the aesthetic photos to represent the place that we were visiting. This time round, I want to have a section where we have the descriptor of what the theme is. So because we've got amulets and wands, there's 2 descriptors. We've got amulet and wand, and I've just put like a little note about what they do. I decided to do amulets and wands first because they are very common in a lot of fantasy novels or fantasy worlds, and they were in quite a few of the places that we travelled to over 2024. I can think of at least 4 different places that had either amulets and or wands. Yeah, it was very, very obvious that these needed to be added in, and I put them together because I felt like they fit a similar vibe. I definitely think that because the user of them wields it, whether they wear it or they hold it, that's why I put these two together. So I think that works really well together. And I'm just going to put some decoration of what I'm expecting the vibe to look like throughout the rest of the setup on this page to fill in the bottom half of the cover page. I hope you really like this new way of setting up the cover page. I really do. I have to admit that the destinations were really fun, but I felt like the two pages didn't always flow together. And I also felt like I ended up having to put a lot of the aesthetic photos into the destination portion because I can't draw. The original plan was to draw things out, but we learned very quickly from January onwards that I could not draw. So I went ahead and didn't do the initial plan for 2024 like I had envisioned in my head. This year we're going to just know that we're not going to go that way and continue on with those aesthetic photos to help us out. The one thing I didn't like about doing that header Tombow effect was that I lost some control. Obviously it worked really well on the cover page and I'm not mad about it at all, but I did decide that I would try more of a watercolor effect on this next page, which is the monthly view page. And this is where I'm going to put my calendar for each month. And for today, this is just the January calendar, obviously. I use the same 3 Tombow Dual Brush markers, but I have just picked up the paintbrush and used it in the similar way that you would with watercolors. And I'm doing it also for this extra header off the side here. I'll talk a little bit about what this part is soon. But there is a lot of errors to be mentioned. Well, there's just one, and it's quite a big one on this page here. It's unfortunate that my first setup in the journal for 2025 means that I have gone ahead and made an error and I have to now use some paper from the back of the journal. I try really hard not to do this in my first month of the year, but you know, we're here for it. That's what this is all about. The whole sharing of my journal means I get to share how I fix problems with you all, and also the journey overall of how I use this journal. So what I ended up doing was 8 boxes instead of 7. This page used to only have the calendar on the left hand side, and whilst I am not really changing a lot of things up in my overall monthly theme, or monthly setup I should say, I definitely wanted a bigger calendar for 2025. So unfortunately I didn't count correctly and ended up with 8 boxes instead of 7. We can fix it, it's a very easy fix, but right now I have absolutely no idea. And it was quite funny when I was editing this back because for the longest time I'm just carrying along, doing what I need to do, doing the headers and these boxes for the calendar, and had no idea that I'd added on an extra box. I was even really frustrated that down in the corner of the right hand side of the box I made an error with my pen. I smudged it, and so I even come in with some white gel pen and try to cover up that mistake so it's not so obvious, but it gets covered anyway because we don't need that row. I don't actually notice it until I'm doing the numbers, which I think I'm about to do now. Yes. And the funniest thing about watching this back was that I figure out where I've made a mistake, but not in the way that I should have. So I get to here and then I'm like, hang on, this is not adding up. And then I had to count every single number to make sure I hadn't done it wrong, when it's clear that there's several boxes that are not needed. So obviously I start to panic, and then I have to do what everyone dreads doing at the start of every new journal, and it means I have to cut a bit out of the back. It's no big deal. I always put this page aside for covering up mistakes, but it would be really nice if I had some cut-offs from another journal that matched. I didn't use an Archer and Olive last year, so I didn't have any white dot grid paper that matched exactly. I did have some Notebook Therapy, but it was slightly off in color. So I decided that I would just have to cut into this and cover it up. Very easy fix though. Once I've got this down to the right size that I need, I just cover it up. And aside from the fact that the upcoming header is no longer centered, it's a good and easy fix. And it means that I'll be able to utilize that upcoming bar on the right hand side a little bit easier for more information. And let's just start talking about what that bar is, because this page used to look a lot different in 2024. I used to have my arcs and my book haul on this page as well. So I have now gotten a larger calendar. This is where I mark down the books that I've read, and you get a visual to see how long it takes to read them. And the upcoming is going to be for arcs that are getting released in January, books that are getting released in January, just having that information there so I can see where it factors into my monthly calendar. I did try to digitally track this over 2024, but I'd always forget to add it to the calendar. And I already track so many things on my Google Calendar as it is that I probably would have never paid enough attention. So I decided that I would try it in my actual reading journal because it relates to what I'm reading. I'm just adding a few more elements to this page, and you will notice in a later part of this video I do go into one page where I add a border. I'm still thinking I might add it on this page because I do end up adding some washi tape now to this page as well, because I feel like there's just too much white space going on without anything filled in. So I grabbed this really pretty PET tape that I really enjoy, but I do think it kind of made this page look a bit messy, but I have left it on because I use it again in another portion of this setup. And I think I might just add some of that pink paint pen that I was doing the ornate border on the cover page with, just to tie everything in and have a bit more cohesion to the overall theme. I think borders are going to become quite an essential part of setting up my monthly themes, just because I'm doing them on that front page. I think it will just add an element of carrying everything through, and like I said before, a bit of cohesion. So once this tape is on, this page is now done, and we'll be able to move on to the next page. But I'm really happy with how it's looking so far. This page here is one that didn't take very long to set up because I ended up printing out the visual for it. I normally put everything into my journal by hand. I don't normally print out things, but I was running a bit behind in time for this video, so I decided that I would print out the Readathon information as opposed to drawing it in myself. And for the second year in a row, I am participating in TBR-a-thon. I will have the Readathon linked below for anyone who wants to participate as well. And I'm doing the Paws and Bookshelves board game. It's essentially like essentially like a snakes and ladders game. And I am going to put it in the middle of the 2-page spread. And then on either side, I will add in some decorative elements to match the theme. But the blank spaces that are there are going to be for the books that I roll and what I end up using the prompt for. So I've already rolled 3 times for the game so far this month, because I am narrating this on the 8th of January. I've had some issues with having time to sit down and narrate this and get it out sooner than now. I've got a very sick, I want to call her a teenager, but she's actually 18 now, but my sister is a little bit sick. Nothing to the extent of my mum. She's just had some conjunctivitis and a bit of a cold, so she's commandeering our living room. And my office, where I normally narrate everything, is open plan behind. It's like tucked behind our kitchen. So she's a bit loud, and I found it a bit distracting to try and do a voiceover there. So I came into my room today to try and do that voiceover after failing to have a good one out in the living room, and found that my microphone was broken. So I've just gone out and brought a new microphone. So if you're wondering why it sounds so crisp, it ought to, because this cost me a little bit of money. But anything for good quality audio I will be here for, because I have been having an issue with it. So that page is now done, and we're on to what I call the functional page of every setup, monthly setup. It is the page where I put down a lot of information. But first I'm going to add in some more of that watercolor effect, but I'm not going to put it behind the headers. I wanted to make this kind of smoky magic look in the middle of the page, because a lot of wands or amulets do tend to have like a magical residue, and I just really liked the effect of this. I'm actually in my bedroom recording this, and I'm looking up at my wall where I've got a lot of fan art that I've purchased, and I've actually got Sorcery of Thorns right in front of me, and I can see the smoky magic coming off 𝓛𝓲𝓷𝓭. So I think I was really onto it here with doing this. I really liked it, and it separated up the page very nicely. So I was able to use all three Tombow colors in here. I really like the peachy tones in with the pink, and I will have all the tools that I use listed below. Sorry I won't have any links, but as usual I'll try my best to have all the information there as much as possible for you. And I'm going to do the headers but just without the watercolor behind them now. So the 4 sections that we're tracking on this page for this year are TBR, there's 10 sections there, and then prompts for my TBR vending machine game. And if you're wondering where my TBR videos are, I'm going to trial doing short form videos of the prompts and then talking about what I end up reading at the end of the month, rather than doing a TBR every month, because I'm finding those videos quite hard to get out in time. So we'll trial this way first. I'll get the short up very soon. It's actually already up on Instagram. I do apologize, it will have the watermarks because I didn't think this through until recently, but from February onwards it should be right. And I do 5 prompts for my TBR vending machine game. And then on the right hand side we've got the arcs in the book haul, which used to be on the monthly view. So I have 8 spots for arcs that I may have to prioritize this month. I may not get to all 8, but I like to have the list there, and I put down 3 dots for book haul. So we do come back to that page and put a border around it later on, but now we're onto the final page of the setup, and it is the reading log, and it's the one page that I haven't touched. I have left it pretty much the same as it is in every other video of 2024, except for one tiny detail, and I will talk about it a little bit when we get to that portion of it being set up on camera. But right now I am just doing that header again with the watercolor effect around it. I think it worked really well in adding a little bit of decoration to every page, and because this page is already so heavy with information as well as visual book covers, I didn't add any extra decoration. I try to keep this page as minimal as possible when I'm setting it up, so that's why this page otherwise looks quite blank, but once it's all filled in, it looks really, really good. So I don't end up needing any extra decoration. And I find sometimes if I try to put something at the top there where it's still blank, it kind of looks clunky. So I'd rather leave it looking a little bit empty right now. Maybe we could put something like an ornate swirl at the top. I'm not sure, but for now, it doesn't need anything. I'm just putting in the spaces for the 12 book covers that are going to be in each section. And I have obviously got enough space here to track 12 books. I don't tend to read more than 12 per month. Last year I did end up reading quite a few in the start, but if that's the case, I'll just do an extra page. But for now, it's just the 12. And I am also going to add in my star stamp here. It's from the Quirky Cup Collective. I will link it below. I generally always have it linked. I really like this stamp. I did want to swap to stickers this year, but I just felt like it would be a hassle to try and organize them myself. So I decided I'd just do stamping again, and it works really well. And then it's the exact same format as last year with what I'm tracking in these sections. So I'm just doing the highlights for them now. And I always struggle when I'm using a Tombow to do highlights as opposed to if I'm using a zebra mild liner. I'm not sure why. I always end up having to count and having to figure out if I'm doing the right amount of spacing, and it always looks a little bit more messy because the mild liner gives a crisp line. But I really liked this color. It was the peachy tone in the 3 Tombows that I was using, so I carried it through. And the things that I always track in each section are author, series, pages, dates, format, and genre. And this is where the slight change is about to happen. I am going to be tracking individual books as well as what book it is in per month. So you can see I've done from 1 to 12, and then you can't really read it, but that tiny little writing underneath the number is saying the same thing, but it's going to be the overall counter of the year. So when we go into February, it won't start from 1 again, it will carry on from 13 onwards. I'm now doing that final border, and I really wish that I hadn't done the tiny line on the left hand side because it doesn't end up matching up at the end. So I do have to use some whiteout to cover up the extra piece there, but otherwise I'm really happy with adding this tiny little border in to sort of bring it more together. And I am very happy to let you know that we are now at the end of this video. Just a final flip through to go through, and I really hope that you've enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below if you like the new theme. I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, especially when we start exploring the creatures perhaps, and I have them all planned out for the rest of the year, so it's going to be very exciting. I am also very happy with how it's all worked out with the layouts and the colors, and aside from making that mistake in the beginning, I think it's all going to work really well for me this year and this month. I also want to say, if you notice the audio difference, please let me know, because like I said, I spent a lot of money on this microphone and I hope that it shows up well. Until we next meet, I hope you have fun reading or journaling, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye everyone.